welcome to Racquets and Tennis Channel Podcast Network production. My name is Alex Gruskin. For those of you who joined us on Tuesday, welcome back. To those of you joining us for the first time, welcome to a show we are calling The Deciding Point here at Cracked Racquets, which will focus on each and every week's results throughout the 2022 college tennis season. Of course, that's something we've done here in the past at Cracked Racquets, but we wanted to add a new dimension to our coverage this year. That's why, to those of you listening on the podcast, you should know you can watch us each and every week now live on YouTube. We're recording this on our Cracked Racquets channel. Super producer Daniel Westoff on the ones and twos. He has done a phenomenal job adding graphics, incorporating all of the things to make this much more of an engaging product. And of course, because now we are doing it live, we want to hear from all of you listeners, all of you college tennis fans, your questions throughout the season, your reactions to the biggest results, the matches you are going to be watching most closely each and every week. And of course, hopefully we'll have the chance to chat with players, coaches, actors in the college tennis world throughout the course of the season on this show as well. A lot of cool plans for all of you listeners here in 2022. So we hope you'll join us along the way. But of course, this weekend, we've got some excitement in the college tennis world. The ceremonial start of the season, the ITA Kickoff weekend, finally upon us. 15 regions of action, 60 teams competing for the opportunity to qualify for the National Indoor Championship. So much exciting tennis. Of course, we're going to be fortunate enough to cover some of it here on our Cracked Racquets YouTube channel. We'll talk about it at the end of the show. But of course, here today, we've got plenty to cover. We've got another weekend of results we have to chat about, certainly as it's our biggest preview for how this weekend's action may transpire. And then, of course, we want to preview the 15 regions of play you all will see across the course of this weekend, whether it be the most interesting region of the weekend, the hosts on upset alert, the locks to advance to the national indoors, and so much more. We're going to cover it all on today's show. And if we're covering anything in the college tennis world, you know more likely than not, we're going to turn to our Cracked Racquets college tennis holy trinity to cover all of the action. I am so fortunate enough to be joined by these two men once again this season, each and every week on this show. Let's start where we always start. You know him as a former four-star recruit at tennisrecruiting.net, your co-favorite writer with John Parsons on our website, crackedrackets.com, and the better half of the Stachowiak brother duo. It's our friend Matt the Crack Stachowiak. Matty, hey, great shot. Welcome to a live show. I'm excited everyone gets to see your smiling face more than everything because your enthusiasm palpable that much more on video. How you doing, my friend?
Doing great, man. Super pumped about this. Excited for the weekend, right? I mean, we always wait for the kickoff weekend. Every single year we highlight it. It's going to be good stuff, man.
Yeah, it should be really, really fun. And again, even for the locks we have on our hands this year, we haven't gotten to see many of our top 10 teams play a dual match this season. We haven't gotten to see many of our teams play a dual match at full strength, more importantly. And of course, with the kickoff weekend, you got to submit that official lineup. As such, maybe we get to see teams flex their muscles. I'm looking at you, Coach Woodson of Baylor. Or just, again, what are the lineups these teams are going to choose come crunch time this weekend, offering us the first glimpse of that over the course of throughout the course of this 2022 season. But of course, the man who helps us break down the numbers, break down the lineups, make sure everything quantitatively makes sense here on our show is the third member of our college tennis holy trinity, the man joining us today. Of course, you know him best as the forefather of the college tennis ranks formula predictions, never far from the listed UTR, one of the many dames to root for the Liberty Flames. Now, normally I go longer than that. I'm going to keep it short. You know him best as a washed up post-prime Greg Maddux. It's our friend, Chris Halioris. Chris, hey, great shot. Welcome back, Professor. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Alex, and ready for this weekend. Although I guess I need to join Maddie and get down to business here, right?
There you go.
So, now we're ready. But yeah.
No, I would join you guys with the backwards hat, I just under no circumstances will let anyone see the top of my head. So that's not going to happen on this end. But no, it's an exciting weekend. And I believe you are going to be on the road, right? You're headed to South Carolina, Chris, right, to watch the Flames compete?
I will be. I'll be at South Carolina, and everybody can keep an eye out on my Twitter. I have talked to all 4 coaches. Going to get a little pre-match talk with each of the coaches. Probably do that on a Twitter live deal. So we'll talk to in the morning. We'll get Josh and we'll get Andy from South Carolina and LSU, and then the afternoon match between Duke and Liberty. We'll get Coach Schwant and Coach Smith.
See, this is the problem with doing a live show. When we do the podcast, I know Dalton doesn't listen to all of them. Cracked Racquet CEO Dalton Thieneman's going to hear you say that, and he's like, no, Chris, you'll be doing that on a Cracked Racquet stream, let me tell you. And so I promise that will be incorporated into our kickoff weekend. I'll probably get the text in 30 seconds. But Maddie, where are you headed now? Because obviously you don't have to watch Nikki. You're a free agent.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be Chapel Hill, man. I got to get there and see what the Tar Heels are looking like. Ohio State's there, so we know there's going to be some really good tennis. A couple other good teams as well, Arizona State, Northwestern. So I think that's where I'm going to have to go, man. But I can't be there all weekend. There's too much tennis going on. I mean, I got to watch all of this stuff. So I may be there a little bit.
Yeah, you're not going to be in Waco. Luckily, the Baylor Bear is going to be a part of our coverage. And I see Scotty B in the chat, the Baylor King himself. Welcome back,
Legend.
Scotty B. We missed you. A few comments, a few questions that I promise we will address when we get to the Baylor Regional. But again, to any of you joining us on the stream, any comments, any questions, please feel free to throw them at us throughout the course of this podcast. Of course, order of operations for all of you viewers, all of you listeners. We're going to talk first about the weekend results, as obviously those offer us a bit of a preview of what we might expect from some teams here this weekend. And then we'll get into the regions. Again, most interesting seeds we have as locks, hosts on Upset Alert, best of the rest as well. We're going to cover it all on today's show. With that in mind, super producer Daniel Westoff, let's get to our recap of last weekend's action. And I think the match we have to start is actually a match that happened this week, but another 4-3 thriller for the Tennessee Volunteers. This time they get to do it at home in the AC-less confines of Knoxville, Tennessee, and they get the job done indoors. Drop another doubles point, and that's puzzling for this Tennessee team, because now they've done that against TCU. They've done that against Wake Forest. They've still continued to play matches without Blaise Bicknell, who inevitably will come up on this show in terms of will he be playing this weekend, will he not? But they play this Wake Forest match without him, and they still managed, Maddie, to get the job done. In the end, it's again Monday, Walton coming through at the top for Tennessee. They also get a victory from Shinsuke Mitsui. The freshman's been phenomenal thus far to kick off his college career. Straight set win for him at 6. Then Wake Forest makes their push. Efstafalu, straight set win over Martin Prada in his return to the lineup at 3. Taha Badi down to the number 5 singles position after debuting at number 3 as a freshman. He gets a comfortable 6-3, 6-love win over Angel Diaz. Comes down to the number 4 spot. Filippo Moroni taking on Emil Hud. In the end, Hud 6-4, 3-6, 7-6 in the third set victory. The transfer from Oklahoma State delivering in one of his first weekends on the job for the Volunteers. Tennessee right now, your number 1, unanimous number 1 in the ITA coaches poll. Justifiably so, right, Maddie?
Oh, yeah. There's no question about it. They deserve to be there right now. And when you lose a doubles point the way that they did, I mean, they dropped 2 tiebreakers, guys, right? It's not like they got blown out in the doubles point. They barely lost that doubles point to Wake Forest. And when that happens, you got to have your studs step up. I mean, just look at 1 and 2, right? Look at what Adam Walton and Johannes Monday did. I mean, that's what you need to see. And you need your best players to step up. You get your stud freshman and Mitsui down at the bottom part of the lineup, winning his match comfortably. And then it comes down to a transfer, right? An experienced player in Emil Hud. That's exactly what you want in that type of situation. And he came through over the younger Wake Forest Moroni.
Yeah, it's so fascinating to see a different recipe for this Tennessee team, because last year it was Hussey or Windeman at 4 or 5. Like, you're getting at least 1 lock from them, and we're taking the doubles point, and then we just got to find, at least 2 more. This season, it's been different recipe for them. And certainly to your point, to see the returners in Walton and Monday drop 7-6 sets in doubles and just dominant straight set victories at 1 and 2 singles. They were good last season. If they're going to take another step forward this year and be a dominant top 2, and I'm not saying they weren't very, very good again, but dominant elite of the elite top 2 with the depth this Tennessee team has, because Chris, Mitsui's delivered the goods. He gets the win over TCU, another win here over Wake Forest. He and HUD, one of the most successful teams in the fall across the country. I told you at the Knoxville Showdown, he was the real deal. I think he's proven that thus far. Is this Tennessee team better than last year's Tennessee team, Chris? And, again, what have you thought of their first couple of weeks of play?
Well, yeah, I don't know if they're better. Certainly if we get to see Blaze, I think they're better. The doubles, I'm not overly concerned about doubles. Like Maddie said, they dropped a couple tiebreakers. Honestly, it's not a match that they should be losing at 3 doubles in a breaker anyway, with Monday and Prada playing down at 3. I think that stung a little bit, but they came back. Monday and Walton have looked great at the top of the lineup. HUD and Mitsui, both in doubles and singles, as you pointed out, have looked good. The question is, what are the other two spots, right? And Prada's coming back off an injury. I'm not going to make a whole lot out of the fact that he got beat up a little bit, but I don't know about Diaz. But again, my estimation is, if we do see Blaze, Diaz is the odd man out. I don't think, even though they've played him ahead of Mitsui, I just don't see Mitsui not playing. I mean, he looks great. I don't know how you keep him out of the lineup.
Yeah, I think the Dream Six, if everyone's healthy come May, it'll be some combination, whatever order: Walton, Monday, Prada, HUD, Mitsui, Bicknell. And I'm not saying in that order, but I think that's your 6 best suited. But again, why is this Tennessee team maybe better? Because they do have Diaz, because they do have Connor Gannon, because they do have Mark Wallner and Pat Harper as well to turn to in a pinch. This team has options. And obviously, again, it was the strength at the top that gave this team the punch it needed, but it was the newcomers, the depth of HUD and Mitsui getting the job done. Quickly on the flip side for this Wake Forest team, a team we left out of our top 10 in our preseason rankings, but had them right on the fringes. Now they lose Henry Squire, their number 1 singles player from last year. But you look at the depth on this team. Nava plays 1 this weekend, Maddie. Karamov at 2. You have Astafalu, known quantity, a rock at number 3 singles. He's never going to be your easy out in the lineup. And then a bunch of unknowns, Maroney, who didn't get to see that much of last year, and, Schneider, who, playing for them at 6, a new addition to their roster, and Tahabadi now at 5, still young, despite it being his 3rd year of experience. We didn't see Kungu. We saw Sid the Kid Banthia at 1 doubles, but not in the singles lineup. What'd you learn about this Wake team?
Yeah, I learned that we may have underrated them a little bit, guys. We didn't put them in our top 10, and they're going to be up there, I think. It's a lot of depth. I'm just a little bit concerned with some of these top teams, right? These elite teams, like a Tennessee, they get those easy wins up at 1 and 2. Yes. That's where it's going to be tough. And, Wake snuck out a doubles point here. Imagine, guys, if one of those tiebreakers in doubles goes the other way and Tennessee ends up winning the doubles point, it's a little bit of a different conversation. So I am not super high on this Wake team. You lose Squire, that's a major loss, but they are deep, and 1 through 6, whatever that lineup ends up being. I think we're going to see Sid Banthia and guys like that throughout the year. They're going to be tough at every position. There's no doubt.
Yeah. And again, I think 2nd place in the ACC, no lower. Like, that should be their expectation, right, Chris? And your final thoughts on this match?
Yeah, obviously Virginia's the favorite in the ACC. North Carolina, now that with Rinky's not, we see he's not there, clearly puts them down at a 3 or lower spot, right? Wake's the clear number 2 going into the season. But yeah, I think it's going to be a matter of, just like Maddie said, they've got they're going to be a little undermanned at the top of the lineup in all likelihood, but they've got the same depth they've had every year. And we'll probably, like you said, we'll see a bunch of different guys filling into those spots. We didn't see Kangu this weekend. We didn't see we didn't see Banthia in singles. We're going to get to see a lot of different guys play some singles, I think. And it's not because, we're going to sit some guys just because we're playing a cupcake. He's got a bunch of guys that Tony's got to figure out who's the lineup going to be when it comes down to, April and May.
Yeah. And not only do they have Michigan this weekend, which we'll talk about at the end, but UCF, Georgia, at South Carolina, Ohio State. It's a Tony Bresky schedule. It's going to be loaded. And all those days, double headers as well, Maddie, right? So not only are you going to get to see one half, you'll see the other half as well.
I'll just say this, Gruskin. I mean, Wake Forest, as long as Tony's coaching that team, they're going to be a tough out. No matter what. I don't care who's playing, what the lineup is. I mean, they're a formidable opponent no matter what. So, I mean, you can't sleep on them. Tennessee, they snuck it out, but I mean, they were very close. And Wake probably felt like that was such a missed opportunity with Maroney there in that tiebreaker against HUD. I mean, that was a couple points from going the other way. So Wake is a very dangerous team, even if we don't consider them the elite of the elite, like a top 5 type of squad.
Tier one. I would agree with you. No.
Right.
And again, how big would that have been for their seeding to pull that one out? But nevertheless, Tennessee showing that match toughness, showing how callous they were last season. They hold on 4-3. They still your number 1 team in the country. Let's move on now to a team we got some feedback from some pushback for including in our college contenders top 10. That's the Arizona Wildcats, who of course played one of the most fascinating weekends of the fascinating set of matches, of the weekend. Let's start on the glass half full side. This Arizona team at home, where they were so good last season, proves that they continue to be really difficult to beat in Tucson. And this team goes out, takes the doubles point, which is not something that they did a lot of last year, over Texas. They get wins from Hasse and Smith, Middleton and Milbasic. And then they get close out a 4-3 win over Texas. They get wins at the top 2 spots. Zieverts lining up at number 1 to start the year. Straight set win for him over Spazzeri. Strong straight set win for the promising sophomore over a fellow super sophomore in Texas sophomore Micah Braswell. And then in the end, when we talked about this team in our preview, we said it's the experience they have at the bottom of the lineup. Hasse, Milbasic, those familiar faces, never count them out. In the end, it's Philip Milbasic, 7-5, 6-4. He takes out Chi Huang. 4-3 win for Arizona. Now for Texas, some solace. Another big win from Pierre Bailey, the freshman third set breaker. He takes over Colton Smith, which is good for the confidence. And, Harper looked really good once again. He was so good at 4. You get him at 5. You feel like he's a lock. He beats Hasse in straights. We'll talk about the Texas side in a second, but I mean, Maddie, these Wildcats, this is a tough unit.
It is. Look, we had them top 10 in our preseason poll for a reason. I mean, I think all of us understand how good this Arizona team can be. They were fantastic last year, and, there's no reason for them not to continue on that path upwards this year. What I was impressed with in the Texas match, though, guys, I mean, they won the doubles point. I mean, when you pick up a 6-4 win at 2 and a 6-3 win at 3, and you win that doubles point last year, remember, they struggled with doubles a little bit. We knew their singles lineup was good, but they dropped a bunch of doubles points. That set them up for this victory. And then straight sets, 1, 2, 6, boom, boom, boom. I mean, they really took it to Texas in this match. Now, again, for Texas, they didn't have CM Waldy. He's been out, he's got to be battling something. So, that all plays into it. But man, I like to see a result like this early in the season. That makes us look pretty good for putting Arizona up there.
Yeah, no, and Spazzeri obviously still not playing his best for Texas, coming back from injury. It is worth mentioning, we talked about the loss of Alejandro Aguant. Colton Smith, freshman for Arizona, slides into that number 3 spot. He lost, but it was a 3-set loss. He's there fighting with his guys alongside of them in one of his first matches on the job. Chris, I know you watched this match particularly closely. Here's the other thing I like about this Arizona team. There's an edge to them. There's a chippiness to them. There's an energy they play with and a feistiness where, look, if you're not going to match it, they're going to run all over you. Now, I'm not saying they ran all over Texas. It was a 4-3 match. Let's be perfectly clear here. But that attitude, 4-3 in the end. But I'm saying I don't think it was a runaway. Look at the close match. I mean, look, they did win the doubles. Maddie, all right. Sorry, Chris. Maddie, you made a noise.
I'm just saying, look, when you win the doubles point like that and get wins quickly at 1, 2, and 6, that match was clinched 4-0 pretty quickly. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I know the other matches were close, but the match was over at that point.
Fair. But so again, with all of that said, you look for this Arizona team. I think that edge is helpful, Chris. Like this team, and I know this is stupid because every team will say, well, of course we don't fear anyone. This team does not fear anyone. This team is like, no. We're number one in the country. Let us show you.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we can all pull out the paper resumes of all the individuals on the team. And this is a team more than most teams are a team. If you stack their paper resume up against a bunch of other teams, they're only going to be like a number 15 or a number 18 or a number 20 type team. They don't have, but just like we've seen from other teams in the past, the teams that are a really cohesive unit that are out there playing for each other and as a team and not just, oh, I'm out there to play my match. And then as soon as I'm done, I hit the locker room and I don't care what anybody else does. That's what these guys are. They're a team, and definitely they have that edge. They don't care who you are. They're ready to play whoever, they'll go out and play Tennessee tomorrow, whoever number one happens to be at the time. And they think they're going to win. And legit, not like, hey, we think we have a shot. They legitimately think they're going to win every match.
Yeah, no, it's again, what
the
makes
feistiness comes from their coach, Gruskin.
100%.
I'm just telling you, Coach Clancy Shields, one of my favorites. The man is intense and he brings it every time. You can just see it trickles right down to the players every match. It's fantastic. I really like this team.
I said this on a previous podcast. I was doing an interview with Nick Crowell of Oklahoma, and I look on the website and I go, isn't that Clancy? And then I see it's Luke Shields. I'm like, are they brothers? I was like, oh my God, they're brothers. And I was like, I can't believe I didn't put 2 and 2 together. But no, to your point, yeah, I mean, Clancy has his team rocking and rolling, and that's what made, and we can switch gears here, this Pepperdine victory over Arizona on Sunday so impressive. And you look for Pepperdine, who started off the weekend with a 5-2 loss against Stanford, which we can talk about in a second. But, for Pepperdine to take the momentum that this Arizona team had built and, to beat them in the doubles point. And then for Pepperdine, who ultimately, wins this match 5-2, but most importantly, when, the match is still being decided, to get a straight set win from Eric Kadigian at that number 6 single spot, and to get a straight set win from DeJong 2 and 5 over Strom at 1. I want to go to you here, Chris. More disappointing for Arizona or more revealing about how good this Pepperdine team might be?
Oh, absolutely more revealing about how good
I agree.
Is. I mean, Arizona had nothing really to put their head down about in this match. It ends up 5-2, but it's a 3-2 match with those last two going on, and Aero Vasa for Pepperdine. Just, I mean, watching that match play out, hit the ball so big and so heavy that he had Hassie going everywhere, and Hassie was still grinding it out with him. He just got beat. I mean, some days you just run into a guy that just does it when he needs to, and that's what happened. Vasa did it when he needed to, and it really showed us. I mean, we know DeJong's good. We know Felon's good, big hitter. You get Vasa, a third team guy, right? He starts at UCF, goes to Cornell, now here. A grad student, lots of experience, big guy, hits the ball hard. I mean, this is a very, very dangerous team. And, I'm sure we'll talk about it. Could be very dangerous this weekend.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the depth that they have. They're another team competitive at all 6 spots, and another team very much whole is more than the sum of the parts. And look, it's not aesthetically as easy on the eyes as a Cannon Kingsley or Sam Riffis, where you're just like, that guy's really good at tennis. But Daniel DeJong is just good. Like, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He is a grinder. And, Gustav Strom, that's a great matchup for him, because if you can't hurt Daniel, he's going to outgrind you. He's going to make the match nasty. And he out-nastied Strom, who's pretty good in that category as well. And just, again, Hadigian at 6, I think it's a really good ball. And, that's just a solid guy to have there. And, again, credit to Arizona, who get, to see the bounce back from a guy like Colton Smith, who gets a really good 3-set win over Andrew Rogers, and, our boy Double H Herman Hoyerall, who is healthy now and gets a good win over Timmy Zeitvogel, the tricky lefty. Like I still thought it was a good bounce back for Arizona, who competed extraordinarily well, Maddie. But to Chris's point, all this tells you is this Pepperdine team is top 16 seed at come NCAA tournament good.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, this team is going to be much better than a lot of people thought, better than I thought. I'll be the first to admit it. I wasn't preseason. I didn't really say, okay, Pepperdine top 15, top 12 type of squad, but they're just solid all the way throughout. And they win this doubles point. Arizona comes off that good doubles point against Texas, and then Pepperdine turns around and they're able to snag it here. Interesting though, guys, if you noted, 1 and 2 for Arizona in the Pepperdine match, they flipped it, right? So we saw Strom at 1 and Zieverts at 2. I'm wondering if Coach Shields is going to flip that back. It didn't work. I don't know. It's just interesting that he makes that change and then Pepperdine ends up winning 1 and 2. So we'll see. But no, this definitely says more about Pepperdine than it does about Arizona. I'm not worried about Arizona at all. I think Pepperdine is a really, really good team.
That's a nice win for them to get from a rankings perspective, right? I know Pepperdine's got a bunch of other Power 5 and top 20, 15 sort of matchups, Chris, but this is big for them in the immediate future as well.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this in one of our previous pods earlier that they need, a cup 2 of these, big wins just because they don't play in the Pac-12 out west. So, and there's just not as, it's a more sparsely populated area. They don't get to play all these teams in the Southeast. So when they get the opportunities to play those schools, they need to come up with a few of those wins because it's going to matter in the rankings formula. So that's one for them. That was huge. I mean, a monstrous win for them from a rankings perspective, and it's going to keep them when we transition over to computer rankings firmly up in in a top 20 spot.
Yeah, again, it's a 1-1 weekend, but you lose to Stanford, you get the win over Arizona. If they beat each other up in the Pac-12, you benefit off that fact. Couldn't agree with you guys more. Fantastic win for Coach Schachterle. Best celebration of the weekend belongs to Coach Tess Schmidt, of course, the assistant, who just a roar after they win that match. But it's interesting. And, again, I've actually got a development. We'll talk about Pepperdine as we get towards that regional. But I want to flip gears now and talk about some of the other results, and we can loop in here. We're going to rapid fire through these results as well, but let's talk about the Stanford component quickly. And I'm just going to list the result. I want to get takes from each of you. Stanford 5-2, no Boyer in the lineup, injured to start the season, unfortunately. Still, Ferry 1, Rotsart 2, Geller at 3, who actually ends up dropping his match to Andrew Rogers, but then they go Bassing, Sa, Chaudhry 4-5-6. Maddie, good win for Stanford. Considering what we saw what Pepperdine did to Arizona 2 days later, Cardinal looks good.
They do. And we know how good. We've rated Stanford pretty high. I know Chris and I have, even going back to last year, Gruskin. I think you were a little bit lower on Stanford, but on paper, again, this is just another loaded team. Geller hasn't played, right? I mean, we see him at 3. I do think if he works his way in, we're going to see him at number 1 or number 2 come the end of the season. I think I could be wrong there, but no, Stanford, good start, and they just have to work their way up into the top 10 and they'll be fine. I think they can win the Pac-12.
Yeah. And again, you look for this Pepperdine team, Chris, I don't think this hurts them in the rankings from any perspective. I think for Stanford, considering again, how difficult last offseason was in the start of last fall to get to play a match this early in the season, to get a good win before the kickoff weekend as well. And obviously because of last season's results, this Stanford team, I believe on the road here on the kickoff weekend, good start for Coach Goldstein and the Cardinal.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to hurt Pepperdine. I mean, yes, Stanford's only a 15-20 in the polls right now, in all likelihood, but by the time the first computer rankings come out, yeah, like you said, they're on the road. They're at UCF, a region they should win. They go to indoors, provided, they get a decent win there. Don't come out of there 0-3 or something. They're going to have some good points on them that are going to translate over, to not hurting Pepperdine. And then Pepperdine's going to get the big boost for the win over Arizona, who's already beaten Texas.
Yeah, no, 100%. And speaking of Texas, with that in mind, let's talk about some of the other results on the weekend. I'm going to rapid fire through, alternate who I ask these questions to. Maddie, Texas, 6-1 over Arizona State. Had to have felt better, right? For the Longhorns, get it split the weekend.
Had to have felt better. I'm a little bit lower though on Arizona State, guys. I don't know how strong they're really going to be this year. I looked at that lineup and I love Coach Matt Hill, and that's one of my guys, but man, I think it could be tough sledding in the Pac-12 for them.
Yeah. And by the way, if one of you have something to add on the match, just throw the finger up. Otherwise, I'm just going to move on to the next one. Chris, you're our SEC correspondent. You know Florida best. Florida 7 over UCF. That tell you more about Florida or UCF?
I don't know that it really told me much. It's pretty much exactly what I expected, right? I mean, we've talked about it. UCF ranked a little, not a little, much too high preseason. Florida's just that much better. And it's hard, maybe you'd have liked to see UCF get a point on the board, but I didn't expect them to put up a fight. So I didn't learn a lot either way there.
Fair. All right. UVA Harvard, Maddie, you're our ACC guy.
Yeah, it's about what I expected. I mean,
6-1 for the Who's, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, Virginia should win the ACC this year. I think it shouldn't really be close. I think they're going to be the dominant ACC team. Harvard is good for an Ivy League school, right? I mean, they're a good team, but not in Virginia's league. This went as expected.
For an Ivy League school, what you hear right now is that creak of the knife coming out of Billy Pate's back that Maddie just stabbed him with.
It's a good conference, right? There's good teams in that conference. I'm just saying you're not at Virginia's level.
Fair, Chris?
Yeah, I think, what surprised me there is Harvard coming in. Harvard and Columbia both are, we probably look at them as two really good Ivy League schools. Harvard, because of the pickups in the offseason with like von der Schulenburg, right? We thought going to be a really good team. They got absolutely decimated at the bottom of that lineup by Virginia. That to me was a little disconcerting. I thought before this weekend that there was a sneaky chance that they might make it a battle with USC in that first match out there. After seeing what happened with Virginia, I'm not so convinced now because they just put up no fight at all at the bottom of the lineup.
No, that was tough for Harvard. Now let's keep in mind, haven't competed together in a year and a half, 2 years, however long it's been at this point. Cut all of the Ivy Leagues some slack until March begins, in my opinion, but it's fair. And again, it's fun to see the rotation. The musical chairs, Coach Pedrosa is playing both at the top of his lineup with Rodesh, Montez, Botzer, and von der Schulenburg, who seem like the pretty definitively clear-cut top four. And then it feels like Getz is 5. And then is it Ross? Is it Allen? Is it, Kiefer? Who's it going to be at that 6th spot? Always something to keep an eye on in the Who's lineup. I'll take this next one, Ohio State 4-0 over Illinois. Buckeyes did not look good in doubles. Credit to Illinois for coming out with energy and playing, I thought, a really good doubles point. But the Illini without Sifo Mansi, without Kwesi Kenyatta, without Carlos Ozalins, Buckeyes rolled them. And the Buckeyes, if you don't have the talent to hang 1 through 6, they're going to roll a lot of teams. Because I'll tell you what, Van Emberg is going to be a lot better than most 3 singles players. Tracy's going to kill most 4 singles players. Cash won 0-0, and no disrespect to Nick Meister, but that's a testament to Ohio State that all of these options. Trotter at 5. Are you kidding me? They are that good. Chris, shout out to Mississippi State, 5-2 over Middle Tennessee. That's a nice win.
It was a good win, but it certainly wasn't easy. I watched, obviously, start to finish. I watched that match. They get 5 points, which means they got 5 match points. I wish I had a count. There were at least 20 match points. I mean, they could not close a match to save their life. I watched the match on court 2 lose 10 straight match points and not be able to close it out. They had match points in 2 other matches in the second set and lost the set and went to a third. So it ended up being a very, very tight match that they ended up pulling out with a win at 1. But, Middle Tennessee, again, that school that beat 3 SEC teams last year. I think it was Ole Miss, Bama, and Vandy, if I'm not mistaken. It's a good team. They've got another good team this year. So it was a quality win. but the real match is, that starts for them this weekend, obviously.
Well, I'm going back to back on the SEC to you, Chris, because Ole Miss 4-3 over Bama in a match that helped me learn exactly nothing about either of these teams. I'm still just as confused as I was heading into the season.
Yeah, I don't, Ole Miss is just going to be a tough team to figure out what you want to make of them. We've got guys coming. We got a lot of guys coming back, but they're all over the lineup. We've seen obviously a lot of Finn Reynolds over the years. We've seen Nicholas Slavic, and those are the guys at the top of the lineup. But then we're seeing guys.
Simon, the Junkinator.
Yeah. We've got Junk down there. We've got Jan Soren Hain, but they're kind of all over the lineup. They could be playing anywhere. And so it's going to be a tough one to figure out until we get partway through the season and see what that lineup is going to look like. But I'm with you. It was, just like I told you, we'll get to that region. I was with you. I'm not sure what to make of it. I still don't know what to think about Ole Miss or Bama for that matter. But at least what we did get to see is some of the newcomers for Alabama. But and that was a good 4-3 match. But yeah, I didn't learn a lot there other than they're pretty closely matched teams.
Chris, I just want you to know that take was Junk. But no, all right. With all of that, you're going to hear me do that throughout the course of the year. Maddie, the other ones, 4-3, obviously, if you have any thoughts on that one, but Texas Tech, big for the NCAA tournament, 4-3 win over SMU. NC State, very young, very good recruiting class, 6-1 win over Princeton. A&M 5-2 over Arizona State. There were others as well. Any other final thoughts on week 1, week 2, whatever we're calling it?
Yeah, just to focus a little bit on that Texas Tech and SMU match. I mean, SMU, I know they lose this, but Coach Grant Chen is building that program, guys. SMU is an improved team. I'm telling you, they've got some transfers that came in, some newcomers. That is a solid squad right there. And we know Texas Tech is, every team in the Big 12 is very, very good. Now, historically, you maybe look at them and go, yeah, well, they're number 6 out of 6 in that conference, but they're perennially a top 25 team. Texas Tech is. So SMU's making some moves. I like to see it.
And I want to apologize to Texas Tech men's tennis head coach Danny Whitehead, who was my very first interview in the Power 5 coaching series. And if there's anyone I should redo, it's that one, because I just got better as it as we hit rep 65. And so, Coach, you are owed a return appearance on the Cracked Interviews podcast feed. To be honest, all of you coaches, open invite as always. But Chris, final words on this weekend go to you. Any last thoughts? And he's on mute, so that's good. It's always good when he talks and we can't hear him.
That's what we want, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's I did that just for you, Gruskin. That's the way you like it, right?
That's post-prime.
Yeah, post-prime Greg Maddox right there. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it was a good setup weekend. We got some good matches. We learned about some teams that we wanted to see a little of, and we've still got a handful that we have no idea what to expect until this weekend. So we're ready to kick it off.
Well, with that in mind, I love the segue there. Let's kick off our coverage of the ITA men's kickoff weekend. And we do apologize. I know that was a lengthy review, but look, first weekend, there's a lot for us to learn here from lineup perspective, from, just the first trickling of results. But we're going to continue to preview, as we do here on this show, in depth, each and every one of these regions. We want to talk about the most interesting. We want to talk about our locks, the hosts on Upset Alert, the best of the rest as well. Are we going to preview each and every one of the 60 teams? No, but I want to offer Maddie and Chris the opportunity to chime in, offer their expert analysis. Of course, at the end, we'll have some picks for all of you as well. Let's start with what we branded the most interesting region. And I will have his protest on the record. Matt Stachowiak, not at all biased. He's going to Chapel Hill. He said North Carolina was the most interesting region of the weekend. I happened to side with the professor, Chris, and agree with him that our most interesting weekend is in Texas A&M, because I think we have some fascinating schools on our hands. Obviously, you start with the Texas A&M team, where that core is gone. No more Aguilar, no more Habib, no more Vastro. Now, they're still a very talented team, but that was the core that you can go back to their NCAA semifinal run in 2018, the connective thread to the Rinderknecht years, to the Patrick Kipson year, and Jordi Arcanadas of the world, Shane Vincents of the world. That little 6-year generation of Texas A&M, that chapter of the book has now been closed. And yes, they're the host sites here. And I would point out, even before we get into this kickoff weekend, latest edition of the ITA coaches poll. 5 of our host sites are not top 16 teams any longer. 5 of them have fallen out of the top 16 for whatever that's worth. That's a discussion perhaps to have a different time. But you look at this Texas A&M team, they're not the highest ranked team in this region. Obviously, that belongs to Arizona, who we just saw beat Texas, play an outstanding match against Pepperdine as well. Of course, we have the aforementioned Texas Tech, 4-3 winners over SMU. It's a team that's much more experienced than they were a year ago. And then you have a UCLA team that I honestly just don't even know where to begin with. There are some faces we're familiar with, but I don't know. Like, I am as unfamiliar with what to expect out of the Bruins this year than I have been ever in my time following college tennis. And for all of those reasons, that's why I agreed with you, Chris, and found it most interesting. Did I leave anything out? Why did you have this there?
No, yeah, I think exactly that. We have no idea what to expect out of UCLA, in addition to the fact that the host, Texas A&M, we know they still have a bunch of talented guys, and they're probably not the favorites at home, but they are at home, and they're not going to be huge underdogs to Arizona. But we got to see what they bring now with the loss of those top 3 guys last year. So it's going to be a very, very, very interesting region, to say the least.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Maddie, what are you watching for?
Well, here's why I didn't necessarily pick this region, guys, because isn't there a world where Arizona comes out of this with like a 4-0 win in the first round and then like a 4-1 type of win in the second match, or I feel like it could go one of two ways. You guys might be right, and this could be the most interesting region, or there's a chance we get a couple of dud matches and it's like, I don't know if this is really the most interesting. I think that's why I didn't pick it. But no, I mean, for me, I really want to see that first matchup with A&M and UCLA. Those are 2 teams that I want to pay attention to here closely. I know about Arizona, I know about Texas Tech, but that first matchup, A&M, UCLA, I'll have my eye on that for sure.
Here's why I picked them as well. Mississippi State disqualified. If I wanted to watch SEC tennis, I'd tune in during the conference season, as I will tune in during the conference season.
That's interesting, though.
It's interesting, but again, a little bit short because I know we'll get to see those matches later on in the year. I just think why I like this region so much is because even if Arizona does cruise to 2-0, man, who's the third team that's going to get a win in this section? Is it going to be Texas Tech, which brings back a bunch of familiar faces? Again, you look at this Texas Tech lineup, I think there's a lot to like up and down the board. But again, when you look at like UCLA, I think Carl Lee has the chance to be a very, very good player throughout the course of his career. And I apologize, I'm looking down because I don't want to get the lineup incorrect. Some of the names that come to mind for UCLA, like Drew Baird, very highly touted freshman coming into college. Has he been unequivocal, I'm going to be the best player on a team, number 1 singles good? Probably not at this point. But from a career trajectory standpoint, I mean, look at Giron, look at Mackey, look at Max Cressy. Clearly, UCLA knows how to develop them. So, that's something to keep in mind. But like Hogue Martins and, Ravelli and all these names, I just don't know much of what to expect from UCLA. Even Patrick Siraj, he's been injured on and off so frequently in his career. Like, does that team go do they go 0-2? Like, could they lose a matchup to Texas Tech? Could they, whatever it may be, or are they just as likely to beat Texas A&M? I really, again, I want to go back to you, Chris. I have no idea. Where are you on this? And talk to me about the Texas A&M team as well, who, still brings back Schachter and, Pierce Rollins and brings in, Guido Marson and has a bunch of interesting names as well. Like, where are you, even beyond Arizona, who I think we all agree is a comfortable favorite? Where are you on the other 3?
I mean, look, I actually think A&M is very likely. I'll make them an underdog in the first match to UCLA.
Okay.
There are a couple matches out there where I think the 4s could knock off the 1. And this is one where I think it's very, very likely. Now, Schachter, we know Schachter's going to be 1 and he's going to be super solid. After that, though, for me, is where it already starts to get shaky. Look, last year, we saw Pierce Rollins and Rafael Perot kind of play in, a tag team at 6 or 5 and 6, right? And those guys are going to have to be playing like 2 and 3, and they were struggling, maybe in the lineup, maybe not. They've got the transfer from Virginia Tech and Ross coming in, but I don't know. It's going to be some growing pains early in the year, I think, for this lineup. So I actually kind of expect UCLA to probably take that early match. I think Texas Tech, who is still a very good team, though, I think it ends up with Texas Tech and Texas A&M in that consolation match. And I got to favor the home team. So, but it would I be shocked if at home A&M came out 0-2? No, it's just a very good region.
Yeah, no.
Would you be shocked, Chris, if any team other than Arizona were to win this? Would you be completely shocked if A&M, Texas Tech, or UCLA went 2-0?
No, not really. I actually think that you, just because you're always a little more fascinated with the unknown. So I'm a little fascinated with UCLA because I've not seen Hoog Martins play. I've not seen Ravelli play. I don't know what to expect out of these guys. So they look good on paper. I don't know how they're going to look in person. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm not going to be shocked if somebody other. I'm taking Arizona, but I'm not going to be shocked if it's someone else.
I think I'd be fairly shocked. I think Arizona is a comfortable favorite in this region. I'd be slightly shocked.
I think Carl Lee is as talented as any player in the 4 through 6 regions of any team. I think Aravalo, the one for Texas Tech, I believe I said that right, Isaac Aravalo. I think he's going to Aravalo. I think he goes undefeated. Like I could see him going 2-0 this weekend and just kind of putting everyone on notice. Like, hey, I am that good at one. The thing is, it's the depth for Arizona. That's what separates them, in my opinion, from everyone else in this region. But look, man, I surprised, not shocked, Maddie, would be my answer to your question. Surprised, not shocked. I'm going to take I'm going to take Arizona. Excuse me. I know both of you are as well. It would be funny, to your point, Scotty B, if we get to see an A&M Texas Tech matchup. I still, in my mind, I think every year I send Chris our Big 12 preview and I include Texas A&M just because. And then he always has to go, they're in the SEC now. And I go, oh, right. My bad. So I look forward to doing that with Texas and Oklahoma in the near future as well. But I agree with you, Scotty. It's always fun to see the Texas squads face off. That's why that's our most interesting region, just whether it's the consolation, the winner's side. It's going to be a fun weekend of play. Let's go next to I believe the locks. I know it says upset alerts. I think next we're going to the locks, though, if we can, super producer Daniel Westoff, because I know when we talk about the locks here in this event, it's, again, we talked about it in our preview college contender series time after time after time. The quality at the top of college tennis this season, whether it's team 1 through team 7, there's literally 7 teams you can make a case for. I would argue maybe 8, maybe more, who you would say would be an unequivocal number 1 in 95% of college tennis seasons. And just with that strength at the top, they are not. That said, we have some locks across the board. I want to talk to each of you. Give me just the thing you are watching for most throughout the course of this region. Let's start with lock number 1, who I believe we go by name here, alphabetically. That's the term. There we go. Hey, I finished college. I promise all of you on here, alphabetically. Baylor Bears, lock number 1. You're number 2 overall, but you look for them this weekend, hosting Miami, hosting Clemson, hosting William and Mary. Now, I would argue the biggest question for the Bears, does Coach Woodson actually play a real 6? Like, if I'm him, I'm making it a point this weekend to not play any of my players in the same singles position twice. Like, I am not throwing any sort of guaranteed look at any sort of coach, like of what my lineup's going to look like moving forward at the national indoors. I'll play Boitan 1, Soto 2 in match number 1. And then I'm going La Marco 1-2 in match number 2, or whatever it may be. And I just think we're going to see a lot of faces mixed in, Maddie. This is your squad. What are you watching for closely? What do you expect?
Yeah, I don't know. If these guys are watching right now, we're calling them a lock. Hey, guys, come on. We still got to go out there and play the matches, right? There he is. Miami, Clemson, ACC opponents, no, but I feel very good about the Bears. I think we're going to know. We're going to know if they roll out the lineup. I know what the lineup should be, and we'll know if Coach Woodson's playing it straight up or if he wants to mix some other guys in. I don't really care either way. You think, Gruskin, that they shouldn't play the normal lineup? Why not? Why not play the normal lineup? Let them get some cohesion in there. There's no problem with that. They're going to be going to the national indoors. Play your top six. I mean, I wouldn't mind either way, but I'm just excited to watch them. I mean, again, I don't think either of their matches are going to be super, super competitive. Let's hope not. But yeah, the lineup, that might be the most interesting part, really.
Ethan Musa won singles. That's all I'm saying.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
That was for you, Maddie. All right, Chris, I want to hear your Baylor takes, obviously, as well. Is Boyton still going to line up at 5 singles? But of the other teams in this region, Miami, Clemson, William and Mary, who's it most important for? Who's getting that third win? Third win, meaning, who's the third team to get a win? Excuse me.
Yeah, the loser of Miami Clemson gets the other win. William and Mary's not winning a match.
Okay. Are Miami and Clemson getting into the NCAA tournament this year?
Man, I thought Clemson was going to have Nina Dika. I don't even know if he's on the roster. I don't think he's around right now. That was supposed to be a big incoming get for them. So I'm not sure on the Clemson standpoint. Miami absolutely should. I mean, they've still got Yankelovsky there. They've got Hannestad back. They've got, they got Jalif transfer from Florida State. I mean, they've got some guys. That's a team that should make the tournament. Clemson's a bubble team, right? They weren't there last year. You'd lean early as a no, and probably a yes on Miami. And you probably lean that Miami ought to win that match. And then it's Clemson against William and Mary, and that's going to be a Clemson win. But yeah, I mean, William and Mary is the team that just is not going to get they're not going to get a win there this weekend.
I know I'm the pretty face of this operation, but why do we call Chris the professor? Oh, good. I was hoping to get a response from you, Maddie. Why do we call Chris the professor? It's because unprepared, unannounced, they go, hey, give me 45 seconds on Miami, Clemson, and William and Mary. And what does he do? Gives us 45 seconds on all of them. This is why you're the professor, my friend. Maddie, final word on this region to you.
Not much else to say. I want the fans to show out. Everybody in Waco, come support the Bears. And I'll be streaming it.
I feel bad. I'm not trying to make fun of them. If I was on Baylor's campus, the amount of times I'd just be running around campus going, just like the whole time before they do their sick'em. It's just like, what a buildup. Great buildup. All right. That's lock number 1. Lock number 2. That's how I played NCAA growing up. The Florida Gators playing host to Florida State, UNC, Wilmington, Princeton. I think we all agree the Gators should advance comfortably through this region. I'm going to start with you here, Chris, first. Who gets win number 3? Do we have any other NCAA teams in this bracket?
Wow, that's tough. Florida obviously comes through very, very easily. I don't know who's going to get win number 3. Florida State hurt, obviously, the fact that they couldn't get, the French kid that's, top 500 ATP eligible for this year. It's going to be tough for them. They're still a decent team. I'm going to say that maybe Wilmington gets that third win, but I don't know. And I think it's going to be really tough outside of Florida. It's going to be a tough go for any of these teams. Florida State's got a shot, but they're probably all 3 on the outside looking in.
Maddie?
Look, Florida's a lock in this region for sure. I'm not saying anything other than that, but guess what? I got a surprise for you guys.
Okay. Oh, UNC Wilmington, Maddie's finest. Oh, I love it.
So guess what? I think Wilmington can win their conference. I think they can absolutely be a tournament team. No question about it. Go Hawks, man.
I'm in. I'm all in. I love it. Now we're Hawks moving forward. I will say this. I kind of like Princeton. Like, I like Siegerman at 1. I like some of the options they have in their lineup. There's some talent accumulated. Now, again, we haven't seen Ivy League teams play much at all over the past couple of years, but I don't hate the team at Princeton either. I think Wilmington beats Florida State. There's your take. And then I think Princeton beats Florida State in that consolation matchup as well. But it's an interesting region for sure. Florida lock moving forward. Tennessee, our next lock, I believe, in terms of tier number 1. We go there. They're hosting Memphis, Western, Old Dominion. Respectfully, I don't think we have to spend too long on this one. Memphis is very good. Western's always in the mix. Old Dominion always in the mix for their conference titles. Tennessee cruises, right, Maddie?
Yeah, this one's tough. I mean, there's no way around it. I mean, this is just it's a great draw for the Vols. I expect them to roll.
Chris, if Liberty's in this region, do they finish second?
Memphis is.
No, I actually think the problem with Memphis, right, is they lost James Story to South Carolina. So everybody's got to slide up. And I mean, Old Dominion's actually, they're all good. I would say, Liberty split with ODU last year. Close. It's a close battle in there. They're all right in that same region.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. Again, my question to you, I'm going to ask you this every time. Who gets that third win?
I think ODU gets it.
Interesting. That's fun. I agree with you, by the way, Scotty B. I don't think Florida should drop a point either in their region. I don't expect Tennessee to either. That would be who we expect to advance out of that region. Another lock for us, TCU. I mean, you look at what they've already accomplished here this season, Wichita State, Tulsa, Portland. Maddie, any questions about this? Or I guess my question is, and we saw this tonight, if Roditi wins a doubles point, does he only play 5 singles players again throughout the course of his kickoff weekend?
I hope not. I really hope we don't see that.
Got a Tim Rule debut today?
Yeah, I mean, look, let's just field 6 guys. I mean, I hope they have 6 guys that are healthy and that can play. I really do. I don't want to see somebody give up a cord and not play 6 guys. But again, this site is actually indoors. That's to TCU's benefit for sure. When you look at these other teams there, I mean, there's no healthy or not healthy, just the talent alone on, for the Frogs, they're going to get through this. No question.
Chris, any other takeaways from the region?
Well, I think there's a good shot that we see Pedro Vives for the first time for TCU. So
that'd be cool.
So hopefully we get to see that. And then we'll get a good look at him. Outside of that, I think whoever loses the Wichita State Tulsa match gets the third win over Portland. But TCU, obviously, the TCU rolls. I don't care if they only play 4 guys. They win. They roll out of this region.
Can they win with 3?
It's technically possible, right?
Well, no, you can't. You can't win doubles. You can't win doubles.
You'd have to have a 4th guy for doubles, but you can play 3
you can't
singles.
play 2-on-1 in doubles. Can't you just be like, Famba's going to hold, and he's just going to hold, and like he's going to win all of his deuce point returns and going to break on break, and like we're good.
Yeah, you just throw one of your injured guys out there in the corner, and then as soon as the point starts, he walks off.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you know what? I'll say this: Alistair Gray would have done it. No, I'm just kidding. I think TCU advances pretty comfortably as well. All right, some other ones here. UVA, again, you're noticing us skipping around here. Tier 1 UVA, I think, has to be in that. For Virginia this weekend, playing host to Georgia Tech, Middle Tennessee, Ball State. Was a weird weekend for Georgia Tech. I don't think Marcus McDaniel played for them last weekend in their tough match, but they bring back him. They bring back Martin as well up top. Or Martin, excuse me. I think I keep saying Martin, and it's just straight up Martin.
Andres.
Andres. And look, I think UVA cruises. Like, I'm fascinated to see what the lineup is. I believe Rodesh is going to be at 1 this weekend, but outside of that, Maddie, I don't have much to say.
Well, I don't want to see, and I'm not claiming that I know anything about the lineups. We'll see when the matches come on, but I really hope we don't see Dr. Vaughn at number 4. I really don't. I don't want to see that. I think he needs to be in the top 3. So keep an eye on that. But actually in this region, guys, I'm a little bit more interested to see that 2-3 matchup of Georgia Tech and Middle Tennessee. I think that could be an interesting match.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. So I almost want to watch that. I know Virginia's going to win. There's no question about it. We'll see what their lineup is, though.
Yeah, no, it's the Brian Bolin match, Virginia versus Ball State in that first round. And, again, I think it is NCAA wise, like for Georgia Tech and Middle Tennessee, you get a win here in this one. Maybe you're a 2 seed instead of a 3 seed in a region come that NCAA tournament. This is a big one, right, Chris?
Yeah, it is a big match for both of them. Middle Tennessee had good luck last year, beating some big schools, some Power 5 schools that
beat Iowa badly, if memory served me correctly in the kickoff.
Yeah,
weekend
the Ohio
last year.
State. Yeah, Ohio State weekend last year. That was they whitewashed them. But yeah, it's a good match for them with Georgia Tech. But to Maddie's point, I think you have to see Von der Schulenberg at 4. I don't know how. I mean,
what?
He hasn't had the results to be above anybody else. Rodesh and Montez, we know, are at the top. So now you're debating, do you play him in front of Botzer? I wouldn't be upset if you played him in front of Botzer. They haven't so far. And, I think you could go either way, but they've been playing Botzer 3. I think that's probably what we see.
You guys just know how I feel about Dr. Vaughn.
Yeah. Do you think when Coach Pedroso writes down Von der Schulenberg in the 4 single spots, he goes, and then he just like keeps going through his lineup? Like, that's not a little smirk. Like, I can't believe I get to put Jeffrey at 4 legitimately. Talk about like a rock. It's like, it reminds me of Mitchell Frank at 3 when it was Jameer Jenkins, Alex Damajon, Mitchell Frank. When you write that down, you just have to be like, like, we win. That's nice. Put one on the board. And so, yeah, that's a really, again, this lineup, it is always fascinating. And I think just as much so on the bottom, do we get a look at Kiefer? Do we get Allen and Ross this weekend as well? There's a lot of choices there for that Virginia coaching staff. So that's interesting. And then our last tier 1 lock of locks would be Georgia, who, as we mentioned, ton of talent on the roster. You bring back Bride, you bring back Henning, you bring back, or you bring in guys like Hamish Stewart and Tristan McCormick as well, and a couple new faces on the job. Also, now we learned that Ethan Quinn going to be redshirting, so we're not going to see him here this spring. But South Florida, Virginia Tech, VCU, all headed down to Athens. You're our SEC guy, Chris. I think Georgia rolls.
Yeah, Georgia absolutely rolls out of this region. The only thing I'm trying to figure out is how, when we went through them alphabetically, Georgia came up last.
University. That's what it was.
University of Georgia comes after University of Virginia.
You shut your mouth.
Okay.
You know what? And University of Tennessee, by the way. University of Florida. Yeah. Look, Baylor should be come first. After Florida.
Well,
we can stick at the Baylor should be first. Yeah, we did that. You know what? Don't yell at me.
No, I mean, Georgia's looked after a, somewhat unimpressive fall for some of the guys. They've looked really, really good so far early in the year. I don't think we're going to see them get much of a challenge, but there are players in spots on all of these other teams that are decent, good players. So, I think it's going to be it'll be an interesting weekend at that region. I'm kind of interested to see something like in both Virginia Tech and VCU, after they lost guys to transfers, what those teams look like. And if they both end up losing, which I think they probably will, their first match and play each other, how does that play out?
Okay, for the record, it went by seeding, but Baylor came before Florida. This is just because it was the order it was in the outline. It's going to bother me. Not that I wasn't listening to everything you just said, Chris, but I wasn't listening to a word you just said. I was so convinced that the UGA thing was going to be right, and I was going to look smarter. Than I was like, the moment I said it, I was like, nope, that's not it. And so, Maddie, have you seen Inside the NBA? I mean, I'm sure you have on TNT. Have you seen when they go to Kevin Garnett in Area 51 or Area 21, whatever they call it? Yep. What I really want them to do, we need to do moving forward in the show is there's a cuss button where Kevin Garnett can mute himself and like just say whatever he wants. And I need a cuss button so that when you do things like that, Chris, I can just scream at you profanely and no one can hear it. And I'll just mute myself moving forward and people can know. But we'll add that in as we go throughout the show. But I mean, to your point, George is very good. Maddie, thoughts?
Well, you guys know how I feel about Georgia. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I was trying to convince you guys that Georgia was going to be a higher ranked team than you may have expected. So, no, I do expect them to roll. I mean, they're not going to lose in Athens. My question for Chris is, are you locking up the South Florida win over Virginia Tech in the first match? Or how are you feel? I mean, it sounded like you said Virginia Tech's going to lose that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not locking it up, but I think I like South Florida there.
Okay.
So it's Fishback. he dispatched
played like 5 and 6 last year.
Fishback's the best player in the country. You bite your
but he
tongue.
dispatched of Fenty like 0-1, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But yeah, no, I think the depth, it's an interesting lineup, right? I mean, I know all of these Virginia Tech guys and all of the South Florida guys. We haven't seen a lot, say, like from Bruno Oliveira, the South Carolina transfer in South Florida, who's going to play this weekend. I think it's going to be a good match. Like I said, I'll favor South Florida, but I'm certainly not going to be shocked if Virginia Tech beats them.
I think I agree with you.
Yeah, no, I think they're all good. I think it's going to be a fun region. No doubt about that. Still, in the end, I expect Georgia to get through. Now, that said, those are our tier 1 locks. Tier 2 gets interesting. And I guess just the final note on Georgia would be lineup-wise. What are they going to do? Who does line up there? We do have some initial inclination of where things are going to shake out, but interesting to see what things look out in finale. Maybe no Gravilius in the lineup, which would be interesting as he's one of their most experienced returners. But let's get to tier 2. And tier 2, Maddie's giving me a look like,
who came up with tier 2?
The truth is we did it in the women's show, and I was like, it was a nice graphic. Let's do tier 2 here as well. Some locks I just have the most questions about, and I'll direct these questions to the two of you. Let's start with Texas, who is clearly banged up right now. Spizzirri still working his way back, mostly slice backhands. Waldy hasn't really played in the singles lineup at all. And obviously this team's still extraordinarily talented and, playing host to Columbia and, which is entirely pretty much a new team outside of Alex Kotzen and, Oklahoma State, which is guys who have played here and there, but never cohesively really as a unit. And then of course, Oregon in the mix as well. We don't know enough about Columbia to just uniformly write them off. And, I think Kotzen should win at number 1 singles. I think they have a freshman Hashimoto, who's I believe lined up at 2, who's exceptional. And I'm just saying, keep your eye out on him. I'm not saying it's an upset alert, Maddie, but I think of the 7 teams we've named thus far, they're the least locky.
No, this one, I don't have a problem with Texas being in tier 2. It's the other team that we're going to talk about in a second that shouldn't be in tier 2. But anyway, Texas, here's the thing that's in their favor. This is an outdoor site, guys. Columbia would have wanted to go indoors. It's interesting. I mean, they're the 4 seed, so they didn't have much of a choice. They didn't have a high enough pick, to choose an indoor site. They had to settle for the outdoors. I just think that plays to Texas's advantage. I'm interested. I'm very interested to see that match, but I have a hard time believing Texas does not come through in this region. I have a really difficult time picturing a scenario where they don't make it out of here. That's just me. And I could be wrong, but that's just how I feel about it. Injured or not, we don't have to see CM Waldib. He doesn't have to play. I'll still take Texas.
There's a lot of talent on Columbia, whether it's Austin Huang, who'll be experienced at the bottom of the lineup, or Max Westphal, who I think, again, really, really talented as well. And, across the board, they had, they're just very, very good.
They're a good team.
Oregon's interesting. Certainly Oklahoma State, it's a lot of pieces. I can't wait to see it. And I like Zink at 1 as much as anyone. And, my boy, Alex Garcia had to be there. Chris, final thoughts on this region? Are you fine with them being tier 2?
Yeah, I'm fine tier 2. I don't think Columbia is gonna knock them off. I'm actually just more interested to see what that Oklahoma, like you said, what that Oklahoma State team looks like. We know all of the guys. We've seen Zink at Georgia, Garcia at Baylor, Isaac Becroft, who was never played at Mississippi State, transferred to Loyola Marymount, never played there. Then transferred Maxime Verboven from Arkansas. I mean, a lot of guys that have been around. Nothaft, Leighton Allen from Texas. I mean, how interesting would it be if Oklahoma State beats Oregon, plays Texas in the championship, and then we end up with some sort of match maybe that matters, and Leighton Allen's involved because he came from the Texas roster. I'd like to see that. I don't think it happens, but yeah, I mean, there's some very interesting teams here that we just don't know how they're going to shake out.
Yeah, Scotty B asks a fun question. Over under, Texas allows 2 points. Now I'm going to make that 1.5 because it's college. 1.5 points to Columbia, Maddie. Over under.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. We either have to make it 2.5 or 1.5.
No, 2.5 is too much. 1.5.
Yeah, 1.5. I mean,
that would be the spread, by the way. If we did a DraftKings for college tennis, it would 100%, the spread would be 2.5 points in the score line between Texas and Columbia.
I do think there is a scenario where it could be a 4-2 match. I don't think it's going to be 4-3, but if you're setting it at 1.5, I do think there is a possibility for sure that Columbia puts 2 points on the board on Texas, but I don't think they'll get 3.
I would ace of the day parlay the under in that with some other favorite, and I would just be guaranteed to lose. Like, that's just a losing recipe for us on the ace of the day. Chris, what say you?
I would lay 3-1 and take the under. I mean, the problem is, right, that we're playing clinch, right?
Sure.
We're not playing anything out because it's kickoff weekend, and Texas is too good at the bottom. Even if Columbia is good up top and those matches go, deep or 3 sets, they clinch the other matches and we're done 4-1.
If Columbia takes the doubles point, it goes over. If they don't, you're right. That's the scenario where Ciamara and Cleve at the bottom of the lineup, they just clean up.
Number 6. No, I'm telling you, I don't know if it's going to be Ciamara and Cleve at 5 and 6. If there's no Waldeb in there, then Chi-Chi's going to be playing 6.
At 4, no, but I'm saying at 4 and 5. Like,
okay, what about 6 though?
Well, I like Austin Huang against anyone for Columbia, but I'm saying that's why that doubles point is that much more important, because if they lose doubles, then they could be a quick, couple quick results.
I'm just saying, I think they could get 2 points at number 6 and one of the top couple courts. I think those are 2 potential points for Columbia. I don't think they'll get dubs.
All I'm learning here is 1.5's a good line. So you guys are welcome. Like, that's what we'll start setting lines for these matches. We'll start running the books. No, just kidding, ITA, I swear. All right. Last tier 2 lock, South Carolina. You look for them. Why are they on this list? A, I enjoy teasing Chris. B, I enjoy teasing Chris. But South Carolina is still just like a little unknown. Like, yeah, we know Rodriguez. We know the new addition of Story and Samuel and some of the returning faces. It's honestly, why are they in tier 2? Because I'm really interested in that Duke Liberty match. Like, I'm fascinated to watch it unfold. And I don't know.
What does that have to do with South Carolina?
I think the winner's going to test South Carolina a little more than you think. A little more than you think. You know what?
I hope Duke does.
You know what with this was? Westhoff, I'm throwing you out. No. I'm not throwing him under the bus. This was a me decision. 6 and 2 for a graphic looks better than 5 and 3. That's all I'm going to throw out there. Maddie, floor is yours. You disagree? Blasphemy? Is this blasphemy?
I think this might be a little bit of blasphemy here, Gruskin. Yeah. South Carolina to me is it's a sure thing. It's a lock. I am very interested, as we all are, in the Duke Liberty match. Chris, we know who he's going to be rooting for. We know who I'm going to be rooting for. I want my Duke Blue Devils to come through in that one. And I would love, Gruskin, if you're right, if Duke comes through, I would love for them to, and Westhoff, great job, man. He's moving it over to tier 1. That's what I like to see. That's what I like to see. I do think it's a lock. As much as I would love Duke to be able to push South Carolina, I don't think my guy Sean Scully's going to play. Like, I'm just a little bit worried about my Dukies. So I think South Carolina gets through this pretty comfortably.
LSU?
I'm not worried about LSU.
Yeah, I know. I think they go, unfortunately, 0-3 in this region. 0-3, 0-2, excuse me. Right? I mean, Chris, give me the Liberty take. Why are the Flames leading us to victory?
Man, it's hard. I can't believe you're going to force me to pick that, Gruskin.
Come on.
It's honestly, look, they played last year. Liberty played Duke last year. It was at Duke. Duke fared pretty well. If you're going to look from the Liberty side and say, hey, we've got to, how do we pull it off? Nicaise has beaten Garrett Johns twice in a row. So that's got to happen. I mean, it can be done. He's got to win. They have to find a way to win doubles. And now somewhere between 2 and 6, you've got to pick up 2 more singles wins. It's going to be tough. There's a little bit more depth on that Duke side, and they got some newcomers in there with Connor Krug. It's going to be a tough one. Obviously, as Maddie said, I'll be there pulling for Liberty, and it's going to be a rough one. Duke probably comes through.
Maddie, but I was going to ask for your pick, Chris.
Yeah, I think Duke comes through, but in no way, shape, or form do they give South Carolina much of a battle.
I think that's fair. I think I would agree. I'm going to take Duke over Liberty, and then I'm going to take South Carolina over Duke.
Sometimes you got to double down on a persona. Give me the Flames. Give me the Flames. Trevor, did you hear what your uncle just said? I'm more family to you than he will ever be. Give me the Flames. Yeah, no, that's a fun one. And again, those are our locks. Yeah, South Carolina belongs in tier number 1. But let's move on now to our seeds on upset alert. Excuse me, the host that we think things could get a little bit sticky for here on the kickoff weekend. Let's start with, I think, the seed we all view most likely to get knocked off on this kickoff weekend. And I think that would be UCF, right? And we see floating South Carolina. I love that. No, West Super Producer always on the 1s and 2s. I apologize. But you have to understand, why am I talking this out loud? Because it's so incredible to me that Westhoff can do all of these things. Truly, he is the best in the business. But we start with UCF, who's playing host to Stanford, to Tulane, to Louisville. Stanford coming off of a win over Pepperdine. And, again, on paper, even without Tristan Boyer, who confirmed out for the weekend, Maddie, they're a prohibitive favorite. I would be shocked if any of us don't have them advancing.
I would agree. I mean, it's a tough draw for UCF. I mean, when Stanford selected that number 2 spot there at UCF, they were probably just like, oh God, I mean, that sucks. It's just luck of the draw, or unluck in this case with Stanford. I know they're at home, UCF, but I don't really care. I mean, I agree with you, Gruskin. Stanford has to advance here. And again, Tulane, Louisville, like when you look for UCF, like these are all pretty good teams, but Stanford should advance.
When we title this episode, it's going to be, I know they're at home, but I don't really care. I like that. That's a good title. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, we're all taking Stanford here. A little bit, if you're going to look for what possibility do we have to knock them off, it's that, hey, Tristan Boyer's still hurt, probably not going to play. I'm with Maddie. Tristan Boyer's hurt. I still don't care.
Yep.
I
care.
I think they come through. I will be interested to see, what Roddick looks like. And I think that'll be, we've seen UCF play already, obviously, and they haven't been great. But I think they should knock off Louisville. Now, Louisville gave Kentucky for a little while a battle at Kentucky indoors. So you never know if they could manage. But again, this isn't going to be indoors. I still think UCF manages to get through there and run into Stanford, but it's just too much firepower on the Stanford side.
And Westhoff, I need to remind you before we do this next show to have the sound effects ready. Can I get some applause for calling Geller not at number 1 singles? You guys are like, no, I'm telling you, Geller's at 1. Geller's at 1. I was like, I'm telling you, I don't think he is going to be at 1.
Hold on. Correction there, Gruskin. I think
you were with me.
1 or 2. 1 or 2.
I think I said 2 or 3. Check the tape. Let's check the tape. Check the tape.
It's early.
Yeah.
By the end of the year, Geller might be in the top 2, man, or even at number 1.
All I'm saying is after he lost at 3 last weekend, he should be at 4 now.
This is what I'm saying.
Give him some time. He's coming back. He hasn't played.
No, I love Axel, first of all.
I do too.
This has nothing to do with him. This has everything to do with the rest of their lineup, and Ferry and Boyer and Roth start looking fit again and healthy. And so all I'm saying is don't be this team's got talent. They're an unequivocal upset for us. If you're in Mississippi this week and you're listening to the show, you better be at a college tennis match over the course of the next couple of days, because our next 2 hosts on Upset Alert are Ole Miss and Mississippi State. And the Ole Miss region, which is where we can start, might be the most puzzling of all of the regions on the board. You look here for Ole Miss, they're hosting Illinois, NC State, and Oklahoma. You look for Illinois. Gone is the core. Kovacevic, gone. Zeke, gone. Noe Cliff, gone. And so, am I missing someone? No. Monty, AB back, Heck back. Anyways, point being, that nucleus last season that led them to so much success, gone. And you look for NC State, which brings in a ton of talented freshmen, but the rock of their lineup last season, Alexi Galarno, he's gone. Oklahoma, bye-bye Van Emberg, bye-bye, a couple of other faces as well. Now they're still pretty talented. And, Mason Byler had a big fall. He's at one. And, the freshman from Israel had a big fall as well. They're still solid. And then you look at Ole Miss, which, we know Finn Reynolds, but his partner in crime, Tim Sancullen, gone. And we talked about them at the top. There's a lot of familiar faces for Ole Miss, but where do they all fit in? There's just a million questions about this region, Maddie. I'm going to start with you. Where are you leaning? What are your thoughts on this one? Because this could have been just as interesting as Texas A&M.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that just triggered. I was like, why didn't we pick this as the region that's most interesting? To me, this is more interesting than the A&M region. It really is, because to me, Arizona is going to win that A&M region. I have no idea. I'm telling you guys, I have no clue who's going to come out of these 4 teams. I want to see all the matches. Like, I want to see Oklahoma and Ole Miss, and I want to see NC State and Illinois, and then, the winners in the – like, all 4 of these matches are going to be super, super good, I think. It's tough, but you have to put Ole Miss on upset alert because Illinois, we know they play well indoors. This is an indoor site. Illinois being a Big Ten team. Oklahoma plays indoors some. NC State, that's the team that I'm a little bit worried about, really, because they are young Gruskin. I know they had a great recruiting class, but when you lose Alexi, the recruiting class isn't going to be enough to replace a guy like that, who is a top 10, top 5 player in the country. That's a major loss. So I'm probably the least high on NC State out of these teams, and it would come down to Ole Miss, Illinois, or Oklahoma for me. So yeah, you just have to put Ole Miss on upset alert.
I like that you say that so definitively. It would come down to Ole Miss, Illinois, or Oklahoma. For me, it's so it'll come down to no. But I'm saying I like that. It's like, so it'll come down to 75% of the teams. Hey, no, I know you made a pick. I know. I'll say this about Illinois: Gabrielis Guzauskis, or the Goose, as I like to call him, because it's just easier that way and it's a great nickname. He's a real piece for the Illini, and if he's playing 5-6 singles come the end of the season, that team is in the mix in the Big Ten. They're right there with Michigan for a top 16 sort of seed. If they don't have Monty, it's not Illinois. They need him this weekend. And obviously, that team, if they get Ozalins back, if they get, now we're really talking about a lineup. No Ozalins for them this weekend for sure. But if they get Monty back, it's still an interesting team. I'd lean that way on experience, but man, I don't know, Chris. Where are you at?
Yeah, this was the region I said maybe overall a little more talent at the A&M region, which is why we kind of went there, like just better teams that were tough to pick. This, to me, though, is the most balanced region where I'm having a hard time picking any match, whether it's the first day or the second day, regardless of the matchups. I'm with Maddie in that. Am I going to be shocked if NC State wins a match? No, but it's the only team I'm not going to pick simply because of the hole, and that they are going to have a struggle up at the top of that lineup having to replace Lexi. And I think that's just going to be tough. Now, obviously, you still, there's 7 spots out there. There's 6 singles and a doubles point. So you could do it without it, but I think that's going to be tough. Every other match, I don't know. It's hard to pick. I could easily see Oklahoma knocking off Ole Miss. That's another why I said there were a couple 4s versus 1s where I think the 4 has a very legit shot. The 4 has a very legit shot here. Oklahoma could beat Ole Miss. I think I'll take Illinois. Now, if there's no Monty, I'll still take them, but it's going to get really tight potentially with NC State. I know Ole Miss is going to have, they're going to have their, barring guys testing positive or something during the week. We saw them play last weekend. We know what they're going to throw out there. Illinois is going to, if they end up playing Ole Miss anyway, gets a taste of their own medicine from the standpoint of it's going to be a ridiculously crazy crowd where 80% of them are inebriated. Okay. So it's a very hard place to play is my point. Ole Miss just doesn't lose a lot at home. And for that reason, I'm going to lean Ole Miss, but I'm absolutely not going to be shocked if Oklahoma knocks them off in the first round.
Yeah, Chris, I was just going to ask you this. So let's say Oklahoma beats Ole Miss and Illinois beats NC State. Who do you take in the Illinois-Oklahoma match?
I think I take Oklahoma.
Wow.
I mean,
if Oklahoma plays
good,
well,
yeah.
if they play well enough to knock off Ole Miss at Ole Miss indoors, then I'm going to go ahead. Then I think they're showing me that they do have, because they've got some players and some guys.
What if it's razor tight? What if Oklahoma barely beats Ole Miss? Let's say it's a 4-3 match, the final match coming down to 7-6 in the third set. And then let's say Illinois rolls NC State. Does that change?
I think Illinois is going to really have to show me something, because I'm going to favor, like Oklahoma down at the 6th spot in that match for sure. I need to see Monty. Monty could really frustrate Byler. I mean, Byler's going to hit big and Monty's just going to grind all day if those are the guys that are playing at the top. But I don't know. It could happen. For sure. Heck, we know is solid. Haven't seen a lot of Anselmo, transfer from Georgia over to Oklahoma. Would like to see a little more out from him. I'll still lean Oklahoma, but no, I'm not. I won't be shocked if Illinois takes it.
It's tough to call.
It's a tricky region.
Like I said, every single match, all 4 matches, the 2 matches both days, you could make a case going, for either team.
Yeah, so that's why it's one of our hosts on Upset Alert. And then, Chris, floor is yours. It's an SEC affair. I think we all agree in the end, Kentucky's the pick to advance. And that's why, pretty decisively on that point, but just Mississippi State, Kentucky, Alabama, Arkansas. What should we expect in Starkville this weekend?
Yeah, a little disappointing, frankly. Who wants to see an all SEC region when we're going to see them play the SEC all year? So
I think that's interesting though.
No, you're so wrong, Maddie. It's an atrocious take.
I mean, that's fine.
Obviously, go ahead, Maddie.
No. I was just going to say, I think that's interesting to get these early season looks. These SEC teams, we know how close they are, right? The Alabamas and Ole Miss and, a lot of these teams, I'm actually interested to see how that shakes out. I know we're going to see it later on, but to me, I want to see it now. I do. I think it's an interesting region.
Yeah, well, that's fair. I mean,
yeah, I think what's interesting to me more than anything probably is just getting a look at the Alabama team is like all new guys, right? I mean, you've got Planinsek, you've got the highly touted junior that made, like, I don't know what it was, the semis or something or finals in doubles at was it the French last year?
I think it's French, right? No, I think it was the French. Yeah.
And then the Juan Martin transfer from TCU. I mean, it's all new guys for Alabama. So I really don't know until we get to see more of them what to make. We know exactly what we're getting out of Kentucky. Yes, they've added Musatelli to the lineup, but we know what's there everywhere else. And we know what we're getting out of Mississippi State, other than the fact that they've added a January addition from Argentina, who played 4 in their matches over the weekend against Middle Tennessee. So it's, yeah. And I think we've seen a fair amount of all of the guys from Arkansas. So yeah, Kentucky, the clear favorite, if you will, in the region. I'll take a Kentucky Mississippi State final, but I just think it's gonna be tough, especially with the depth that Kentucky's got. And I mean, golly, I'm gonna have to tune in to see some Draxel and Flo at the top, because Draxel only plays 3 setters, right? He's gonna have to give Flo the first set just because he always does, right? And then let's see what happens. But that'll be a great match.
Will the fans in Starkville also be drunk?
No.
Okay.
Very good, respectful crowds there. It is definitely not the Oxford crowd. Those are 2 distinctly different crowds.
That's good to know. And yeah, okay. So with that said, again, those are some other, those are ones we're locking in on in terms of hosts potentially upset. It's worth mentioning each of those teams, UCF, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, no longer in the top 15 of the ITA rankings. Let's move on now to the best of the rest. Only a couple of others to get here too. And there's, a couple of matchups I locked on in particular. Now, I've got some breaking news, not only for all of you listeners, some breaking news for Maddie and Chris as well. They didn't know this coming into it. I only recently learned this fact. Denver out of the USC region. They will not be playing, forced to withdraw. Therefore, it's going to be Harvard versus Pepperdine in that opening match. Now, they're still looking for a fourth team to fill that final spot. But right now, Denver out of the ITA regional. That certainly does add a wrinkle, right? Because you wondered, might USC, I'm sure Chris referred to it earlier, those 4-1 matchups that he was a little bit worried about. Well, USC Harvard was one of those 4-1 matchups. Certainly on paper, Harvard's got a lot of talent. This USC team, very, very new, very, very untested. Yeah, we know Dostanek. Yeah, we know Bradley Fry at 2. But, again, Ryan Colby coming in, who I think is going to line up at 6 singles this weekend, and just, a bunch of new faces up and down the lineup. Yeah, with Strate at 5, we know, but it's an interesting team for USC, an untested team. Very, they played Claremont Mud Scripts, and they've done some fun matches here to start the season. But Pepperdine's already calloused, right? They saw Stanford. They saw their matchup against Arizona. This region is fascinating, Maddie.
Yeah.
Would you have been fine if we snuck it into a host on Upset Alert?
I am not gonna. I wonder if I'm going to regret this. Pepperdine, look, I'm going to roll with Coach Macy here. I'm going to take the Trojans, but I'm a little bit nervous about that. I mean, Pepperdine is really, really good, and they're not going to have any issue going there to USC and playing that match. I mean, they've played there so many times. That's not going to really be intimidating for them. With Denver out, I do think the Pepperdine-Harvard match is a little more interesting in the first round. That's going to be interesting. USC, I don't know who they're going to play now, but they should definitely win that first round match. I think it comes down to USC and Pepperdine. And yeah, maybe that is a slight upset alert, Gruskin. I think you might be right there, but at home, I'm going to roll with Coach Macy this time. I've gone against him enough. I know he probably hates me at this point. I always pick against his Trojans. I'm going to take them this time.
Chris?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing here is I had a decent little conversation after the Pepperdine Arizona match with Coach Schachterly, and we were talking about that prospective USC Harvard match. And now it turns out that he gets to play Harvard instead. I was giving him my take on, man, I don't know. Harvard got demolished at the bottom of the lineup, but yeah, now that's his lineup. I would think they could find a team like, say, a Loyola Marymount or somebody. I mean, obviously on short notice, it's going to.
I don't know. Are you going to ask Loyola after their women's team just knocked off UCLA? You're going to be like, no. We're good. We don't want to play Loyola.
But yeah, certainly they hopefully can find a team out west or a UCSB or someone in that area that can come and fill in. But I'm with all of you, right? I picked USC. I would have been okay with saying that's a team on upset alert. I mean, Pepperdine showed they can do it. Hell, I think they beat them last year once, right? I mean, they played a hidden duel, and I think USC wiped them out, and then they played a match, and Pepperdine won. But yeah, it's definitely the two teams that are familiar with each other. Pepperdine definitely not a huge underdog there.
No, I regret my pick knowing this news now of USC as well, simply because I actually thought that Harvard match was going to be really good for the Trojans to get tested early on and to kind of just be like, all right, we got tested. We got over that hump. We can do that against Pepperdine now as well.
Oh, so you're calling Pepperdine to win this region.
I need to find some places for us to disagree. Do I really want to think, though, that a national indoor is going to happen without the Trojans? And do I really want to face the freaking... Oh, man. I don't know. I'm going to stew on that a little bit more until we get to our final predictions. I may pull an audible. Shout out to super producer Daniel Westoff, though, on the fly. You see Denver out of this region. Let's move next, though, to Chapel Hill. I think when we look at this region, there's really only two teams you circle. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see Ohio State, Arizona State. It's going to be fascinating to see North Carolina compete, period. Oh, excuse me. I'm a graphic ahead. If we can, Westoff, can we go to the North Carolina graphic? Possibly first, because, and we'll get back to this one because save the best for last. But when you look at this North Carolina region, I think we all agree, right, as of right now, at least collision course, North Carolina, Arizona State. Oh, excuse me, no North Carolina graphic. That's my bad. UNC, Ohio State. It's interesting, right, Maddie? Is that where you think it goes, by the way? Or do the Wildcats knock off UNC?
Time out. If Dalton's watching this right now, I hope he is. let's show a little love to Northwestern, okay? UNC's not the same team, guys. They're not. Without Rinky, without
Is this about to be the take of the pod?
No. I'm not saying they're going to win. All I'm saying is that match could be very interesting. North Carolina against Northwestern. I'm very intrigued with that because, again, Carolina's not the same squad. But, yeah, let's say they do get through, right? And then it's going to be against Ohio State. UNC is always really good at home. But when you just now on paper, you look at it and go, man, I mean, Ohio State is just absolutely loaded. Singles, loaded, all 6 spots. Doubles, maybe the best in the country. You could say they have the best doubles in the country.
They were in the fall.
They did in the fall for sure. So I don't know. I'm interested to see North Carolina play both of their matches. I mean, I would like to see them play Northwestern, get through that, and then play Ohio State. I want to see how the Tar Heels look, but there's no question to me. I mean, I've got to pick indoors, right? Yeah, this is an indoor site.
Yeah.
Got to go with the Buckeyes.
Chris?
I don't know how this was not, like I said, it was at least in the best or in the hosts on upset alert.
Yeah.
If not in the lock category. Ohio State is winning this region. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, North Carolina without Rinky, they don't have the fight. I mean, the depth just isn't there. Even if they could pull off a doubles win, which will be very, very difficult. And even if you get guys like Seguin and Cernak that are returners that can play, after that, they can't compete with the depth that Ohio State's got. So yeah, I do think they managed to get by Northwestern, but that's no gimme either. We're definitely going to see Presley this year. Last year hey, is he going to get to play 6 or is he not? He's playing this year, right? I mean, he's in. So we will get to see that. And yeah, those guys, could Foreman knock off Cernak? Sure. I think it's a possibility. It is one of those 4-1s where it could happen. I'm going to lean probably not, but I wouldn't be totally shocked, but I would be absolutely stunned if there was any result other than Ohio State walking out of here.
Yeah, I would agree with you guys. If I didn't give you some low-hanging fruit, though, to disagree with, then these shows would be no fun. I believe we have now hit on every region, but of course, the region all of us are going to be watching most closely, and this is a guaranteed first-round matchup. Westoff, bring it back on the screen. Michigan, Wake Forest, first-round matchup in Winston-Salem. Manny, I'm surprised that's not where you're going. Of course, Notre Dame, SMU also in the draw as well. There's your best of the rest. There is that UNC Ohio State graphic I was referring to earlier. But again, now here we've got Wake Forest, Michigan head-to-head as well. Looked in the lineups. I see Fenty, number 2. I see Styler up to number 1. Bickerstaff 3, Maloney 4 is an interesting little flip-flop there as well. I'll tell you what, the best version of Fenty and Styler can absolutely take the top 2 spots from Wake Forest. And again, this Michigan team's got some renewed depth. I think this is a good one, Maddie. I think I'm feeling cautiously optimistic as a Wolverine fan. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, well, first things first, the reason I'm not going there, it's a little bit further of a drive. I can get to Chapel Hill in 15, 20 minutes. So that's easy for me. But you're right, Gruskin. Michigan is a dangerous opponent. I mean, if you're Wake Forest, you have to be prepared for that match. But Wake is so good at home, guys. I mean, historically, they're so good at home. This is an indoor site. So that's good for Michigan. I think that plays in their favor. But upset alert. I mean, I'm not gonna pick it. I can't pick Michigan on the road. This Wake Forest team has a lot of depth. They're solid at every position. And I can't say that I love what I've seen this year from, you mentioned the best version of Fenty and Styler. What if it's not their best version? Then they're in trouble. then they're in trouble. I'm just telling you, they have to absolutely be at their best to have a chance. From what I've seen this year, they haven't been, and therefore I've got to lean Wake Forest, but super intriguing match. I want to watch it for sure.
What say you, Chris?
Yeah, I'm gonna take Wake Forest. Will I be shocked if your Wolverines manage to pull off an upset? And not terribly. I don't hold out a lot of hope for Fenty just because we haven't seen it, right? I mean, it's really tough. Now, he might be the kind of guy that can just, hey, it was all mental and I'm into it now. Let's go, let's play. But Styler, I think for sure, Styler could be the guy. He could win one up there. The reason I would give your Wolverines a little bit of hope is I do think that down low, they can actually compete with the Wake Forest guys. I mean, when you're playing Maloney and Gavin Young and Aaron Schneider, or down there, those guys have shots. I mean, they can do it. So it's definitely not out of the question. It is one of those sites, I think, where, yeah, obviously because of what happened with the Big Ten last year, Michigan got pinned into, having to be a 4 seed somewhere instead of the probably 2 seed that they deserved. So it's another one of those 4-1 matchups where the 4 could knock off the 1. And that is the championship match. Whoever wins that match wins that site.
Another reason to be frustrated by this pandemic. But with all that said, those are your 15 regions, folks. That's the action to expect throughout the course of the ITA Kickoff weekend. Now, in case you didn't follow along with us, let me list off the predictions we've made here for the 15 regions. Who are the teams we expect to advance? I'm just going to go here from seeds top to bottom. We all expect number 1, Florida to advance, number 2, Baylor, number 3, Texas, number 4, Tennessee, number 5, TCU. We all have an upset of number 6, North Carolina, as we believe Ohio State's going to knock them out. Number 7, Virginia. We've got Arizona over Texas A&M, Georgia advancing. Are we all going to take USC? Anyone? Last chance. You want to take Pepperdine?
I am.
It's now or never.
I'm not backing out on my pick. I'll take USC over Pepperdine. I'm going to stick with that.
Chris, one of us should take Pepperdine. You want to rock, paper, scissors? You
just lost.
I'll do it. I'll take Pepperdine. That's fine. Sorry. I'll do it for the team, for the culture. Give me Pepperdine. Stanford.
That's how it goes, Coach Macy. It's always Gruskin.
Yeah,
always.
but I want to emphasize, do you see how little thought is put into it? Just clear there. That right there. You hear the thought process on the podcast. It's not more thought out than I just want to disagree with Chris and be right. Stanford over UCF. We all agree. You guys both have Wake Forest. Hell will freeze over before I pick against my Wolverines. South Carolina. We all have advancing. Oxford. Maddie and I, hesitant Illinois backers. You say Ole Miss here in the end, Chris?
I did. I said Ole Miss, and I regretted it when I said it. But I'm still I have no good pick in that region. So I'm going.
What if NC State wins this one?
Yeah, Chris is just on the fan. Yeah, exactly. It's going to be the Ole Miss just on the uniforms, if nothing else, right, Chris? Ole Miss just on that hoity-toity blue.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we see the kind of soccer rugby style shirt they rocked at NCAAs at North Carolina. But yeah.
No, I like that. And then we all have Kentucky advancing out of Starkville. Those are our picks for the kickoff weekend. Of course, we will be back next week to recap all of that action, talk about how we see things unfolding moving forward as well. But we've got some fantastic news for all of you listeners as we will have action throughout the course of this weekend available for all of you here on our Cracked Racquets YouTube channel. If we can, Westhoff, let's pull up the sites we're going to have here on the men's side. Fortunate enough to be hosting the Tennessee men as they host Memphis Western and Old Dominion, USC, Pepperdine, Denver, Harvard. Hopefully Coach Macy lets me on that USC call after that prediction. I might switch back to USC just to ensure that he does, of course. We've also got the Baylor Bears, Miami, Clemson, William, and Mary as well. Hoping to sneak maybe 1 or 2 men's sites in, but of course we've got 4 other on the women's site as well to mix in throughout the course of the weekend. NC State, Ohio State, Duke, and the Baylor women. As such, our schedule for the weekend. Things going to get kicked off for us tomorrow as we've got match and kicking off at 10 a.m. I believe our broadcast will start at noon for the home stretch of those two regions. You can see it all on your screen there. I won't list it out for you. You can find that schedule here. I'm sure we will tweet it out at some point either tonight or later on tomorrow as well. But again, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, you want a home to talk about all the action happening across the country. Our Cracked Racquets YouTube channel will be the place for you. I'll get some on the ground reporting from Chris. Maybe we'll have Maddie call in as well, give him that opportunity to chat on his thoughts throughout the day. And again, all of us enjoy the ceremonial start of the 2022 college tennis season. Of course, you can expect John Parsons to hop in and out throughout the course of the weekend as well. And yeah, we're all extraordinarily excited for the beginning of this college tennis season. Of course, with all of that in mind, if you missed any of our coverage, College Contenders 10 through 1 available, crackedrackets.com. Of course, immediate updates, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or at Cracked Racquets. You want to message me directly, I'm at AL Gruskin. A shout out, as always, to super producer Daniel Westoff for the F of a job he does day in, day out, making all of this content possible. Shout out to the two of you. Sincerely, 3 straight hours we've been broadcasting now. We did a podcast before this. We've gone from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. We've right about hit Maddie's bedtime. So I'm immensely grateful for the both of you and your continued contributions. With that in mind, final thoughts, Maddie, then Chris. Maddie, anything as we head towards kickoff weekend?
No, I'm fired up, man. I mean, this was great talking about all these regions. I'm ready for some college tennis, man. I can't wait for the weekend.
Chris?
It's what I look forward to, the road trips. You know, you kick it off with the 7-8 hour drive on Friday to get somewhere, get 4 matches for a long weekend, and then have to head home, be ready to go, Monday morning for work. Not good for the work, but it's great for the tennis.
I will be adding to your intro moving forward. He loves road trips. But no, with all of that said, for my fantastic co-host, Stachowiak, Chris Halioris, our super producer, Daniel Westoff, and all of us here at both Cracked Racquets and the Tennis Channel Podcast Network, I am your host, Alex Gruskin. You've been watching the newest and latest episode of The Deciding Point. We will be back next week. But for now, gentlemen, what do we tell our listeners?
I don't know.
On this? It's not even a great shot pod.
It still is a great shot podcast. It's just a sub series. So what do we tell them? Leave it in.
Hey, great shot.
Great shot.
I love it. And we will see you all next time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope you enjoyed.